Hello, everyone. On this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about duality again and time. You know, many people believe that time flows from backwards, from the past to the future, right? But if you follow the law of duality, right? Because we do live in a world of duality. You follow the rules of duality, right? You realize that time flows backwards and forwards, right? But it also flows in different ways as well. Perspective determines our reality. Since we live in a world of duality, perspective determines our reality. From one perspective, the earth is flat. If you stand on the surface of the earth will appear flat to you. From another perspective, the earth is round. If you stand on the moon, the earth will appear round to you. And since, perspective determines our reality, you understand that, if you follow the laws of duality, round and flat are equal and opposites, right? If something is flat, it can't be round. Something round, it can't be flat. These are equal opposites. But if you follow the laws of duality states that equal opposites exist simultaneously as one, just like a magnet, right? A magnet is positive, a magnet is negative, and a magnet is neither positive nor negative. A magnet attracts, a magnet repels. And the equal opposite of that, because a magnet both attracts and repels, a magnet can neither attract nor repel. There are things in this world that are attracted by magnets. There are things in this world that are repelled by magnets. And there are things in this world that can neither be attracted nor repelled by magnets. Right? The human hand, the human body, can neither be attracted nor repelled by magnets. Metals can be attracted by magnets. Plastics can neither be attracted nor repelled by magnets. If you put the negative end of one magnet to the negative end of another magnet, they'll repel each other, right? So if you follow the laws of duality, which states that equal and opposites must exist simultaneously as one, you see it perfectly, you see the example perfectly in magnets. Magnets can attract. The equal and opposite of attraction is repelling. Magnet can attract and magnet can repel. And magnet can neither attract nor repel. All three states exist simultaneously as one within the magnet, right? It's four states, right? But let's just say it's three. It's the same with the earth as well. The earth is flat from one end, right? From one perspective, the earth is flat. From another perspective, the earth is round. So because the earth is both flat and round, there's another perspective where the earth is neither flat nor round. Do you know the perspective where the earth is neither flat nor round? If you're born at the center of the earth, right? When you look around you, all you see is the earth. No matter how far you go, you will still be within the earth. From the perspective of someone at the center of the earth is neither round nor flat. They can't determine what the size of the earth. They can't determine the shape of the earth. Someone at the center of the earth will never be able to determine the true shape of the earth. Just like scientists, they can't determine the whether the universe has a center or an edge. So they believe the universe does not have a center or an edge. But the truth is, if you follow the rules of duality, it means that because they see because there's a perspective where the universe has no center or an edge, it proves that its equal and opposite must also be true. From the perspective of scientists, the universe has no center or an edge. From a different perspective, the universe must have a center and an edge. But just because we don't see that perspective does not mean that perspective doesn't exist. Just if you live at the center of the earth, just because you don't see the perspective where the earth is flat does not mean there's no perspective where the earth is flat. Just because you stand at the center, just because you stand on the planet Earth, right? Just like humans, we live on the top of planet Earth. We live on the surface. From our vantage point, from our perspective, the earth is flat. But just because the earth is, appears flat to us, does not mean the earth is flat. Does not mean the earth is only flat. If you stand on the moon, the earth will be round. If the earth appears flat, it means its equal and opposite perspective must also be true. If the earth appears round, it means its equal and opposite perspective must also be true. From one perspective, the earth is round. From another perspective, the earth is flat. And from their equal and opposite perspective, the earth is neither round nor flat. All opposites must exist simultaneously as one in this world. Same with the earth's movement. From one perspective, if you stand on planet Earth, right, the earth is not moving. From a different perspective, right, if you stand on the moon or the sun, you see that the earth is always moving. From one perspective, the earth isn't moving. From another perspective, its equal and opposite is true. The earth is always moving. And because the earth is both moving and not moving at the same time, their equal and opposite must also be true. There's a perspective where the earth is neither moving nor not moving. I don't know how to visualize that, but that's how this world works. It works just like a magnet. Positive, negative, and then neither positive nor negative. All opposites must exist simultaneously as one. So let's go to time. From our perspective, time moves forward. And because from our perspective, time moves forward, right? The equal and opposite perspective must be true. From a different perspective, we're actually not moving forward in time, but we're actually moving backwards in time. We don't think we're moving backwards, but we are. Just like when you stand on planet Earth, you will never see yourself, move. You will never see the Earth move, no matter how much you look. The Earth will always appear as if it's not moving. You can try all you want, but you always see you always feel the earth as non-moving, for eternity. You'll be stuck in that perspective. And that's how we are. We're stuck in a perspective where we're moving forwards in time. But because we're moving forwards in time, there's this equal and opposite perspective where we're actually moving backwards in time instead. And because we're both moving forward and backwards in time, right? There's another perspective where we're neither moving forward nor backwards in time. We're stuck in one place. And this is how our world works. It's pretty weird, the world works in very weird ways, From one perspective, the past is the past. From another perspective, the past is the future. From one perspective, the future is the future. From another perspective, the future is the past. From one perspective, the earth is very, very warm, right? It's very, very hot. From another perspective, the earth is very, very cold. And then from its equal and opposite perspective, the earth is neither cold nor hot. From the perspective of something colder than the earth, right? For example, like a moon that's freezing cold. The earth is very, very hot. But from the perspective of the sun, the earth is very, very cold. Compared to the sun, the earth is cold. Compared to something colder than the earth is very, very hot. That's how perspective works, From one perspective, you're tall. From the perspective of ants, you're tall. From the perspective of trees, you're very short. And from the perspective of someone at the same height as you, you're neither tall nor short. This is how this world works. All opposites must exist simultaneously as one. If you find one aspect of the world, its equal and opposite must also be true. And since both equal and opposites must be true, their equal and opposites must also be true. Just like a magnet. A magnet is positive from one perspective, a magnet is positive. From another perspective, a magnet is all negative. And because a magnet is, can neither be positive nor negative, right? A magnet is both positive and negative. A magnet has a positive end and a negative end. And because a magnet is both positive and negative, there's a perspective where a magnet is neither positive nor negative. All opposites exist simultaneously within a magnet. A magnet attracts, a magnet repels. And there are things in this world that a magnet can neither attract nor repel. Plastics, humans, animals. These are things that magnets can neither attract nor repel. Our hands do not get stuck on a magnet. Our hands do not push magnets away from it. And this is how time works as well, and also how our universe works, From the perspective of humans, right? We're moving forwards in time. From the perspective of something that's in the future, right? Since we're moving forwards in time, right? There's something that must be moving backwards in time instead. But from their perspective, they're not moving backwards in time. They're moving forwards in time. And because they're moving backwards in time from our perspective, from their perspective, we're the ones that are moving backwards in time, not them. From our perspective, we're moving forwards in time. But there's something in this world that was born in the future and it's actually moving backwards in time instead. And from their perspective, they're not moving backwards in time. They're moving forwards in time. Because they're forward. Their beginning point is the future. Our beginning point is the past. We're going equal and opposite directions. So from their perspective, we're the ones that are moving backwards in time. And from our perspective, they are the ones that are moving backwards in time. Whatever object or creature it is, there's something in this world that is moving backwards in time. And as we move forward in time, there's something that's moving backwards in time relative to us. And because both states exist, there's objects in this world that are neither moving forwards nor backwards in time. And from their perspective, nothing is moving forward or backwards in time. We're stuck in place. From the perspective of God, since God creates both the past and the future, from God's perspective, both the past and the future exist simultaneously as one. There is no moving forwards or backwards in time. It doesn't, it's only from our perspective that, forwards and backwards exist. It's only from our perspective that existence and non-existence exist. From God's perspective, these two words have no meaning. From God's perspective, existence and non-existence are one and the same, just like the past and the future. It makes no logical sense. It only makes logical sense from our perspective. Things will only make logical sense from our perspective. From a different perspective, from God's perspective, God is both in the past and the future. God both travels from the future to the past and the past to the future. Because God does both at the same time. Since God sees both at the same time, since God created both the past and the future at the same time, right? God neither sees the past nor the future. It's all one. It's all God. And this is how this world works, If you take this analogy to existence and non-existence, right? From our perspective, we exist. Just like if you enter a dream, right? From the perspective of someone inside the dream exists. But the moment that person exits that dream, the dream no longer exists. From one perspective, right, the earth is not moving. But the moment we leave the earth, we start to realize it's a lie. The earth is moving. Perspective determines whether we exist or not. From our perspective, we will always exist. But just because we exist from our perspective does not mean we exist. Existence is relative. Time is relative. And it's all based off perspective. And that's what you need to understand. When you talk about existence and non-existence with God, it makes no logical sense. Because God both exists and doesn't exist simultaneously. God creates existence and non-existence, just like God creates the past and the future. God creates time. God creates the two concepts of short and tall. God creates the two concepts of movement and non-movement. And since they all exist within God, right? God's existence goes beyond these terms. You can't use it to explain God himself. God as a whole goes beyond the terms existence and non-existence. The part can never be greater than the whole, but the whole can always be larger than the part. Existence and non-existence are parts of God. They aren't the whole. Because they aren't the whole, it's kind of illogical to say that it's both true and not true at the same time. When you say God exists or doesn't exist, it is both true and not true at the same time. This is how our world works. And for those who don't believe that God exists, if you follow the laws of duality, the laws of duality itself prove that God exists, right? It proves that God exists. It's very simple. Just like a magnet is positive or negative, right? Existence and non-existence exist simultaneously as one. And because there are things that exist and things that do not exist, there are things in this world that neither exist nor do not exist. God neither exists nor do not exist. Because God creates both existence and non-existence. You think existence and non-existence are the only two options, right? You either exist or you don't exist. But the truth is, if you follow the rules of duality, there's a third option. There's something that neither exists nor do not exist. There's something in this world that neither exists nor do not exist. That's God. And if you want me to prove that God exists, it's very simple, right? Because the world appears separate, it proves the world is one. Because the world appears unintelligent, its equal and opposite state must also be true. This whole world is intelligent. Just because it doesn't appear intelligent does not mean it's not. The reason why, something intelligent cannot understand something that's not intelligent. The fact that we can understand the world, the rules of this world, right? The fact that the rules of this world are logical proves that the rules of this world are intelligent. The fact that the rules of this world are intelligent proves the world is intelligent. We live in an intelligent world, and that world is God. That's what it states in the Bible. God created all things, because God is all things. God stated himself, I created all existence, because only I exist. Even in the Bible, Jesus said, through God all things are possible. Through God all things exist. That's what it means. In the Bible, God is omnipresent and God is intelligent. This world is this world is omnipresent and intelligent. This world is God. Just because the world appears illogical from your perspective does not mean the world is illogical. The fact that we can understand the rules of this world, the logic of this world, proves that the world is intelligent. And because the world is intelligent and the world is omnipresent, what's the difference between the world and God? There's not much of a difference. You live in an intelligent being, just like the Bible states. You live inside the body of an intelligent being. God created the world out of his own body, his own intelligent body. God created existence and non-existence, these two concepts, out of his own body. And because God is everything, God is all there is. That's why when God says, I create all existences, or I create all existence, because only I exist, it is a fact. This is the perfect example of duality. The fact that the Bible understands duality perfectly, the fact that God speaks in duality, proves what? That the Bible is accurate. Because everything is separate, its equal and opposite state must also be true. Everything is one. Because the earth appears flat, it means the earth can be round from a different perspective. Because the earth is not moving from our perspective, it proves that the earth is moving from a different perspective. Because the world appears illogical from one perspective, it proves that the whole world is logical. Because the world appears unintelligent from one perspective, proves that its equal and opposite state is true. The entire world you live in is one massive intelligent being. Because the world appears, unalive, non-living from one perspective, it proves that the entire world is alive, because its equal and opposite state must also be true. The world is alive. The world is God, because God is everything. The Bible has been saying it for years, but nobody cares what the truth is. They only care what atheists tell them. When an atheist tells you the world is illogical, you believe it, even though the rules of this world are logical. Something that's logical cannot understand something that's illogical. If it doesn't make sense, you will never be able to understand it. If the world is truly random and it doesn't make any logical sense, human beings will never be able to understand a single thing about this world. You'll be living in a massive miasma of illogical randomness. The fact that this world makes logical sense, the fact that you can go to school and learn about the basic principles of this world, tells you that this world is logical. This world is intelligent. This is a basic fact. This world is logical because this world is God. You live inside a massive intelligent being. That's why the rules make logical sense. God created the rules of this world, exactly the way it is. And because God is everything, God is also nothing. Following the rules of duality, because God is everything, God is also nothing. That's why you never see God anywhere. Because when you look around you, because God transformed himself into a house, you will not see God, you will see a house. Because God transformed himself into an atom, you will not see God, you will see an atom. Because God transformed his body into you, you will not see God, you only see yourself. Because God is everything, God is also nothing. Because God is all existence, God doesn't exist. It's an illusion. Perspective determines whether God exists or doesn't. Because God is everything. Atheists will never see God. They're expecting God, the God of the Bible, to be a human being that walks the earth like a celebrity. Even Jesus Christ didn't, when Jesus Christ was alive, he didn't walk the earth like a celebrity. Jesus Christ was very secretive. So why do you think God, the God of the Bible would be a celebrity? Will walk around like a celebrity, praying, like the Pope. He will come to earth and behave like the Pope. That's not the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible tells you to be humble. Tells you to be humble and prideless. Tells you to avoid these sins. If the God of the Bible is telling you to be humble, why would the God of the Bible be an arrogant, prideful demon who only cares about himself? Who shows off and tells everyone, hey, I'm here, creates a massive statue of himself in the middle of on the planet Earth, as large as a skyscraper or multiple skyscrapers. It comes and tells you, hey, worship me, I'm right here. Do you really think that's the God of the Bible? Read your Bible. Yahweh rarely ever shows himself. If you read the Bible, you realize that the entire Bible, God rarely ever shows himself. Even the avatars he sends down isn't the real form of God. These are avatars and nothing more. The real form of God is omnipresent. It's everything. And because because it's everything, it tells you how humble God is. God is humble enough to be everything. He's humble enough to be you without showing it off. He's humble enough to be an atom, a planet, a universe, a star, a black hole. He's humble enough to be everything without ever having to show it off. That's who the God of the Bible is. God already knows there'll be people who won't believe he exists, because that's how God created this world. From the perspective of someone inside inside a dream, only the dream world exists. They will never see the real world as a real world. The real world doesn't exist from the perspective of someone inside a dream. But just because the real world doesn't exist for someone, from the perspective of someone inside a dream, does not mean it doesn't exist. This is how this world works. Just because you don't see God anywhere does not mean God doesn't exist. You exist because of God. And that's how duality works. Because everything is separate, it proves that everything is one. And the world shows it. Just because the space outside, when you look outside in the air, right? When you look outside up in the air, you see space, right? Space appears empty from your point of view, right? But because space appears empty, it proves that space isn't empty at all. Its equal and opposite state must also be true. If space appears empty from one perspective, space must be full from another perspective. And scientists show you that space itself isn't empty. It's only empty from our perspective. From a different perspective, space is filled with energy. And that energy connects every single planet on this, in our solar system, in our universe. All those energies in space, whether they're, dark energy, anti-energy, antimatter, matter, all the energy in space connect together as one. They come all together to form one being, and that being is God. Everything in this world only appears separate from our perspective. From a different perspective, nothing is separate. Everything is one. Because you're intelligent, it proves that the world is intelligent. Why? Because the part can never be greater than the whole. Humans can never be more intelligent than the world. The very fabric of this world has to be more intelligent than humans. Otherwise, humans can't be intelligent. Nothing can be more intelligent than the world, because everything in this world is the world. Nothing can be more intelligent than God, because God is everything. You live in a world governed by God, but you keep expecting God to show up to your doorstep to believe he exists. The God of the Bible isn't a show-off. The God of the Bible isn't prideful. The God of the Bible preaches humility, tells you to be a normal human being, tells you to stop showing off. So why would God show off and come to your doorstep and tell you, hey, this is me. I'm right here, believe in me. The God of the Bible tells you to allow fools to behave like fools. If you're not smart enough to realize that God exists, you're a fool. The God of the Bible tells you to stay away from fools, because they'll trick you into believing that God doesn't exist when it does. Just like flat earthers are not smart enough to realize that the earth is round, right? Atheists are not smart enough to realize that God exists. It doesn't cross their minds that God exists, just like a flat earther. It will never cross their minds that the earth is round. The moment you tell them that the earth is round, they'll start to mock you. They'll start to insult you. Even though facts prove otherwise, they will still mock and insult you, just like an atheist. They will never understand the truth. And the truth is, We live in a world of duality. Because the world appears separate, proves that the world is one. Because the world appears to be non-living, to not be alive, proves that the world is very alive. It's just as alive as you and me. The world is God, and God is alive. The whole world is alive. And because the whole world is alive, nothing is alive. Because everything in this world exists, nothing exists. From God's perspective, only God exists. But from our perspective, God doesn't exist. Only the world exists. We live in a world where equal and opposite perspective exists. Because only us exists from our perspective, it proves that. From a different perspective, nothing exists. Only God. And that's how this world works. So that's it for today's podcast episode. And let me go back to, before I end it, let me go back to what I wanted to talk about. From our perspective, time moves forwards. But the truth is, time moves forwards and backwards at the same time. Only from our perspective does time move forward. And only from our perspective. From a different perspective, time moves backwards as well. And because time moves forward and backwards, there's a perspective where time is neither moving forward nor backwards. Since God sees all perspective, God also sees the perspective where time neither moves forwards nor backwards. And because God is the creator of all time, the past and the future, from God's perspective, there's no such thing as time. Time doesn't exist. Time only exists from our perspective. Since our time exists from our perspective, the equal and opposite perspective is also true. There's a perspective where time doesn't exist at all. No time, no energy, no humans. Nothing exists. There's also that perspective as well. And that's also a perspective that God sees. So that's it for today's podcast episode. I pray for everyone's safety and understanding. Amen.